I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. Welcome to you all. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been together. Been busy with a retreat and recovering from a retreat. I was very happy to see some of you I hadn't seen before, and those that I've seen. Again, I was happy to see all of you. This lecture tonight comes from the kind of what's been percolating in me for a while, at least throughout the summer into the fall. Some of my own practice and minor realizations. But I wanted to share them with you in that I felt that they are very valuable for us to have as a way of practice. It's consistent with what I've been practicing, and it just actually adds an extension to what I've been talking about. This particular topic tonight is going to be on compassion. A few months ago, I received notice from one of my students, Angela, that her son was very sick with cancer. It was pretty bad, and she was in Taiwan, so he underwent very serious chemotherapy and other treatments, and went through the whole gamut of losing his hair. So he looked like a little monk after a while, and was quite a very bold, strong individual. And as a result of that, I vowed that every night I would set aside time to provide him with a recitation of the Buddha's name. And so for every night, I would recite 108 times the Buddha's name for him. And his mother, Angela, had indicated that she was very sad because when she saw in the cancer ward there of the children, that there are many children that were sick and ill, and some of them actually she experienced them passing during the time her son was in the hospital. And so I decided that I would extend the blessings and transfer of merit to them. And then as I began to think about it, I began to think about transferring it to all children who are victims of cancer and suffering from cancer. And it kept going to all people, and it just never stopped. It just went to all the people who have some form of suffering, not just in the present moment, but all of those who will encounter suffering, not just suffering from cancer, but just suffering, all of those that presently are suffering, and all those in the past who have suffered. And in this way, my heart opened up to this kind of an experience, and I can't really call it an experience as a samsaric experience or a human experience or a human realization, just that there was a breakthrough that I realized that this kind of a compassion is not limited to a samsaric devotion or practice, but it is actually the heart mind of the Buddha nature. And in that way, it was as if my body deatomized or was absorbed by mind itself into this purposeful action or function of spreading compassion. And I realized that that compassion was incredibly powerful, way beyond one transferring merits or blessings from a samsaric orientation. And I wanted to share that with you, not to say that I am so great. Please don't take it that way, but share with you to say you too have this, and you too can use this method to help others. And this lecture is going to show you how to do that, and hopefully you can do that. So I continue to transfer merit to Hugo, and I have to thank him for allowing me to express and extend this kind of a blessing to others beyond just his own plight. And in this way, he is acting like a bodhisattva. So today, I wore a special shirt for him. I don't know if you can see it, but it says Hugo. And so this is my shirt and my dedication to him, that he has really inspired me in a way that it's really beyond measure, truly beyond measure. So we'll begin. As we begin to practice in Bodhidharma, we find that our attention is not only for our own realizations or putting down our negative emotions. When we first start, it is in this way. We want to calm down. We want to stop the baby from crying. We want to stop our vexations. We want to stop our fears, our greed, hatred, whatever ignorance we have. And as we begin to settle down, there is another aspect of the practice that we begin to touch on. And that is that if I can calm myself down, I can settle down, others can too. And so you begin to have an interest in sharing this experience with others. And I know there's so many of you are already at this level that you want to share it with others. And that is good. That this is what we do. And so when we practice in this way, let me check my notes here. We find that this Chan practice provides us with something that we didn't get when we came into this world. Like if we buy a computer, if we buy a car, we get an owner's manual, and it tells us what to do and what not to do, what kind of gas to put in, what kind of electricity, what kind of connections, whatever we do, don't point the computer towards the sun or whatever, all sorts of common practical things. We don't have that when we grow up. We only have maybe some faith-based guidance, parental guidance, maybe if we're lucky, somebody from an educational orientation will help us to show the way in terms of what we should be doing in this life. But Chan gives us this kind of an owner's manual. It tells us how to do a body check about our body and a reality check about reality itself. And that gives us a direction. When we get that direction, we find that it changes the way we are. And we begin to see that the direction is omnidirectional. It is not directed towards egocentrism or the satisfaction of the ego or the calming of the ego or placating the ego, but the ego is then just set aside. And when we do that in the right way, we can remain in this present moment. I mentioned at the retreat I just had that this present moment is not the present moment of samsaric time. Samsaric time where there's this line of, let's say, present reality moving, and what's going past is the past, and what's coming is the future. It doesn't work that way. It is just simply the present moment. And this present moment, then I call it Buddha time. I don't think you're going to find that one in the sutras, but every moment is Buddha time. And every moment gives us an opportunity to be able to extend the mind and the consciousness beyond what is capable of in the samsaric realm. So this revised viewpoint allows you to see things not just from your eyes and heart, but from the eyes and heart of the people around you. Sometimes it isn't just simply individuals, but category of people who you begin to see are suffering. It is just this suffering of others that begins to come into your mind is perhaps something that can be helped. Indeed, it is this interest in the suffering of others that begins to develop a deep compassion. Now, I wanted to explain a little bit here about that aspect, and went to the Abhidharma that talked about these words, and it's kind of like a definition of these words, but also an instruction and a progression is how we practice. The first one is metta, metta, and it's derived from a term meaning to soften or to love, and it in Sanskrit it is as it like Maitri is the kind of like a prefix of it, which is, if we look back and say, what has that Maitri prefix, is that actually Maitreya and or Milafo. And this is a state of a friend, that which softens the mind or friendly disposition is metta. And I'm going through this in great detail because I want you to understand this term, as it will help you understand the next term that's going to be coming. And because this term metta is one that has been used in a conventional way now as a kind of like a salutation, but it's much, much deeper than that. Goodwill, benevolence, loving kindness are suggested as the best renderings. Metta is not a carnal love or affection. The direct enemy of metta is hatred or ill will. Its indirect enemy is affection. This is very interesting. Its indirect enemy is affection. Why would that be? Because affection is sticking. It's sticking to something. So if you smile at me, I smile back and I go, oh, I like this person. But if I smile and you smile, that's fine. That's metta, but it's not conditional, and it doesn't create an affection towards that person in a samsaric manner. This is where, when we use metta conventionally, we mess the whole thing up. Metta embraces all beings without exception, so embraces everyone. If you think of people that you really didn't want to give goodwill to, you have to be able to extend metta to them as well. The culmination of metta is the identification of oneself with all beings. So this is, as we look around, as I've mentioned to you, if you see everybody possessing a Buddha nature, how could you not have loving kindness towards that person, irregardless of their ignorance or their hostility to you as well? Metta is the sincere wish for the good and welfare. It discards ill will. So it's this sincere wish for good and welfare of others. Now, the next term in the Abhidharma is karuna, Karuna. And karuna says, defined this way, that which makes the hearts of the good quiver. Quiver is kind of like vibrating. When others are afflicted with sorrow is karuna. That which dissipates the suffering of others is karuna. The wish for removal of suffering of others is its chief characteristic. Its direct enemy is wickedness, and its indirect enemy is grief. Very interesting when we see this indirect enemy is grief. It is not in this way because grief is conditional. We have to put down any kind of a conditional kind of a sentiment. Karuna is not a sentiment. Karuna is the natural state of bodhicitta, of mind itself. I wouldn't even call it state. I would just say that it is part of mind. The wish for removal of suffering of others is its chief character. Oh, excuse me, I read that part. And then it's kind of interesting because the next two are very helpful. And one of them is mudita, Mudita, is to be pleased. And it says, it is not mere sympathy, but appreciative joy. Its direct enemy is jealousy, and its indirect enemy is exaltation. Its chief characteristic is happy acquiescence in others' prosperity. Mudita embraces prosperous beings. It discards dislike and is a congratulatory attitude of a person. Sometimes we can relate this to some form of a Dharma joy. As long as we don't hold on to it too strongly, this is a natural characteristic of mind itself. And this mudita is just this appreciative joy. If in the, I can't remember what sutra it was that I recently read. I think I talked about it at one of the retreats. And there was a part where one of the bodhisattvas was asking the Buddha, and he said, I think it might have been in the Child of Inconceivable Radiance. He kept asking him after certain refrains, why did you smile? Why did you smile? You know, and he kept asking him, this and this happened, and I saw this. Why did you smile? And it's this mudita. It is this appreciative joy of a Buddha that was why he was smiling, because he could see in the future what would happen with the circumstances there, where what was the fate of the parties where they would become Buddhas in a future lifetime. And so why would not that be an appreciative joy in this moment? Very interesting, right? So why did the Buddha smile? And the last one is upekkha. I've been always calling it upika because I had it once. It was upeek, but here it's upekkkha. So it's upekkha. So I stand corrected by Sue about that. And and this is like a state of equanimity. And it says, upekkha is to view impartiality neither with attachment nor with aversion. It is the balanced state of mind. It's, a direct enemy is passion or raga, and its indirect enemy is an unintelligent indifference. An unintelligent indifference is like when I was watching this program on TV, and this old lady was getting on a bus, and there was many people that were trying to rush to get onto the bus, and the old lady's bag broke, and all of her produce fell right there on the curb. But everybody played like they didn't see it. It was like they were indifferent to it. And I was so surprised, saying, how could that be in that way, this kind of an indifference to that? But what was interesting was the bus driver stopped the bus, opened the door, and helped the lady put her bag, all of her stuff into a new bag. No. And so everybody had to wait no matter what. And the bus driver would have waited for the lady to do that. But everybody was so in a rush not to miss the bus, they missed this opportunity to express some form of compassion or upekkha. And it was very, very sad, because it was really a telltale tale of how people are in this samsaric realm. They just want to be concerned about themselves and getting on the bus. It was very sad. But then it was also, there was appreciative joy and a smile, because the bus driver then got down from the bus and helped her pick up all of the things without saying anything to anybody else. It was just that, why not do that? And this is compassion. This is our compassion. It's not the compassion of going, like, too bad, at least you didn't fall or whatever, I got to go. No, he did what was necessary in that moment. And this is important for us to understand how compassion works. So I wanted to express that to you, so that you have some kind of an idea of this kind of a compassion. We'll continue on. Let's compare the difference between everyday compassion with deep compassion in our everyday life. We're able to manifest compassion for others, compassion for our loved ones, compassion for our workers. Well, some of them at least, and for some classes of people. So here with the bus, because this was not a coworker, this was not a friend, this was just a stranger, there was no compassion exhibited towards this elderly lady. But if it had been their grandma, they would have stopped, right? They would have stopped and helped her pick up the stuff. But they were in too much of a rush, and she wasn't related to him. That's samsaric compassion. That's not a deep compassion. That's a compassion that's a conditional one. If you are from, let's say, the same race as me, or you are from the same family, or a coworker, or whatever, or more importantly, my boss, for sure, I'm going to help you pick up everything. But this is a conditional compassion. It's not deep compassion. Oftentimes I say that this conditional compassion, a compassion conditioned on your interest in a particular class or category of people as you have encountered in this lifetime. This compassion is a compassion emanating from samsara, from some emotional compassion, is very broad class of people, yet is limited, and it's in its reach and its power. So this kind of compassion, the samsaric compassion, doesn't go very far. It can go as far as you can reach. Not very far, right? It can go as far as your immediate environment. Not much more than that. The ancient masters exerted us to derive power from our power. This is the intrinsic power of mind, which in conjunction with our Buddha nature is found within us. Or should I more accurately say that we are found within mind? In fact, it is the only thing that we can see that is real, that is found within us. Not even us or our name is real to derive power from this. We can't really truly derive power from just our name. We can derive some conditional power. Oh, do you know who I am? I'm a police officer. I'm a politician. I'm this. I'm a Dharma instructor, whatever. But that's all very limited. That doesn't really provide us with a great power, but the power within us, because this is real, can generate an incredible effect on mind, which samsara is part of. Mind requires us to put aside our own cares and put aside our own interest to practice. For the sake of others, no, we practice in the middle way, which means, of course, we still have to work, we still have to clean up things, clean our homes, and follow our regular responsibilities. But we can change the course of our attention to include responsibility for others. How do we do that? We start by being mindful of the present moment and what actions are occurring via the body, speech, and mind. Are these activities wholesome, or can they be said to be harmful either to us or to others? Or do they set courses of negative responses and activities, negative environments being created? We must be mindful with each word, each action, each thought. How is your environment around you in a daily basis? Can you see your environment? Your environment includes your physical environment, but also your mental environment and your emotional environment. And it also includes those around you, those that are affected by you, where if you use a lot of negativity in your life, you begin to beat people down and affect them in ways rather than to try to lift them up, inspire them to practice in a better way. This is what we should do. So we're responsible in great part for what's happening around us. Now, there may be petty tyrants in our lives. That's okay. You should actually rejoice if you have petty tyrants, because it gives you an opportunity to practice and to be able to subdue your own unwholesome thoughts in the present moment. Unwholesome thoughts, unwholesome speech, unwholesome actions will only produce unwholesomeness. We can never have a solution in this way. War begets war, hatred begets hatred, killing just leads to other killing. We never understand this. We can kill an inspiration, a relationship, sometimes just with one word, sometimes just with one look or one thought. We can kill that which is there, a potential of a beautiful relationship, simply by our unregulated speech or actions or even thoughts. I have often spoken about the first level of practice, which is mentioned by the ancient masters as well as in the sutras. So be it with compassion as well. Samsara compassion is a compassion that we have utilizing false consciousness. and is limited to the ability of this false consciousness to spread compassion. While this false consciousness is part of mind, it does not have complete access to mind. Mind has access to consciousness and knows consciousness. Consciousness does not know mind. This is an important distinction in the cultivation of true compassion. When we using samsaric compassion, it is as if we're using the paramitas, the 37 factors of enlightenment, the Eightfold Path, the three jewels, the five precepts, Four Noble Truths, all of those things, we're using them in a samsaric way. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't want you to think Gilbert said, oh, put all those things down, they're second level. They're second level to the extent that when they're not utilized in conjunction with right view, then they only have the potential of producing a fertile environment within samsara, within the context of this limited environment. Whereas when one expresses all of these practices via mind, it radiates down. It radiates in all directions and has an impact everywhere, not just in this little fiefdom of samsara, but beyond what you could possibly conceive. It has that potential power to it. Now imagine if you have the ability to extend this compassion out to the infinite. So all of a sudden it goes out to the infinite, and it's just like a water hose. So just picture a water hose, and so I'm always watering my bonsais, and I have a sprayer, and I'll water all the leaves, and it sprays and covers everything. But when I want to give water, a deep watering to some of the larger containers, I adjust the hose, the nozzle on the hose, and have a stream of water. It's the same amount of water coming through. It's directed as a stream now rather than a spray. Mind is capable of that. When we transfer merit to others and we direct this compassion in this way, it can truly affect others in a remarkable way, because we're using this as a stream. It could be a stream of protection, a stream of healing, a stream of goodwill, a stream for someone to practice. Whatever it is, we now have taken this wonderful spray, infinite spray of compassion, and then directing it towards samsara. It will work. It does work. This is the beauty of this unbridled compassion. That direct spray is very, very powerful. That's why they say you derive power from your power, and you can use this kind of a compassion that works much stronger than samsaric compassion, because you have uncovered this bodhicitta that you already have, this intrinsic nature, and you now are not impeding it in any way. So you allow it to go out in all directions. But then when you need to concentrate it, it can come back and have a very incredible impact within samsara. I have to caveat this is that because I always say, I have not necessarily found a quote on this in the sutras or from the masters other than derive power from your power. So that's not something that I can support in that way. This is only experiential in terms of my utilization of this compassion. But if you try it and it works, then it can't hurt. Okay. When we practice true compassion, we're putting aside the self and accessing the unlimited potentiality of mind. Now, in samsara and the ego and the consciousness, there is not an unlimited potentiality. It is limited to samsara and the forces that are created within samsara. But when one utilizes mind, that's a whole different story. And it can affect everything that occurs in samsara because that samsara is within mind. We set aside certain goals and practices and devote the present moment to the attention of transferring merits and providing blessings, and in any manner of extending compassion towards other sentient beings. In fact, this extension of compassion also includes non-sentient beings, such as our environment. Protecting the environment can be as small as picking up a discarded coffee cup in a park or participating in some environmental organization for the protection of the ecological environment. But in any case, we do not harbor a thought that I am doing anything. The mind simply engages in the function. In practicing this way, we utilize the most important wisdom function of listening. So I want to speak a little bit about listening because listening is extremely, extremely important. It is only until recently that I truly began to mine the depths of listening. We can listen as a sentient being, and as such, we formulate opinions, discriminations, vexations, all coloring the appearances in the present moment and superseding our own intrinsic wisdom. Albeit we're utilizing compassion, we can extend it or utilize it to the fullest with a samsaric mind. So this idea of listening is very important. And it was, I don't know if Sophia's here tonight. She was in the retreat, she was talking about that she was wanted to utilize Guanxin Pusa's method of listening. And that is a very, very powerful, powerful practice, an incredibly powerful practice. And she had been told by somebody else during another retreat, oh, that's too complicated. Don't be bothered with that. Just go back to counting the breath. And I'm going, what? If she had this naturally coming into her practice, and if you have something like this naturally coming into your practice during a retreat, you pick up on it. You follow that, just like you're a miner mining gold, and you follow that vein and you use it. That's mind showing you something. It's showing you something very, very powerful. You don't poo-poo it and say, I've got to go back to this. When something like that happens, my gosh, I told her, go for it. Go for it. Even you may not know how to do it. I gave her some quick instruction on how to do it, but that's precious. So this listening method is important. We don't listen very well. A lot of times, have you ever talked to somebody and you're talking to them and they have their finger up? and they're like this, waiting for your lips to stop so that they can then point their finger at you and make their counterpoint. They stop listening the moment they put their finger up. So this is very, very the antithesis of listening. When we listen with our heart. There's always something that one can learn. It doesn't matter who you are or who else is there. By listening, you can discover more about this world. You don't listen just with your ears. You listen with your heart. You listen with your eyes. What is their facial feature? What is happening? Are they pensive? Are they nervous? Are they this way? Are they that way? We listen to the environment. Is there going to be a change of weather? We listen to everything around us in a very, very careful way. It doesn't interfere with our function. If we're in the present moment with this type of a mind, we're capable of multifunctioning and listening and staying calm. We do not react to the words that are being said in an emotional way. That doesn't help us. So when we listen to it, whether it's a student, whether it's somebody that is teaching you, it doesn't matter. We listen. One of the things my dad what used to tell me is that respect the teachers. They're there for you, and he would always say, you don't go to school to eat your lunch. You go to school to listen and respect the teacher. They're there and they have something that you need. So there's no reason for you not to listen to them. When we listen, we find more and more ways of opening up our heart to listen. Again, it's not just with the ears, it's with the totality of mind, that which Guanyin Bodhisattva, using karuna, can experience, listening to others. This type of listening goes well beyond the capacity of hearing by just an auditory hearing. It's not that kind of a listening. It's a listening way beyond that. It's a listening from the heart. I might read some of what I just told you because I went off my notes. But when you use the true nature to perceive the world without indulging in any discrimination, the mind will naturally access necessary understanding, perception, and actions that are necessary to provide a wholesome environment in the world. It may be as simple as a subtle smile to a stranger or a substantial donation to a worthwhile cause. It may be taking our time to help someone or some cause without seeking any acknowledgement or credit for what we've done. In fact, this was what Bodhidharma's first lesson was to Emperor Wu. Emperor Wu had said, I have erected stupas, I have erected temples, I have provided for the monastics. What merit is there? And Bodhidharma Dhammo just said, none. And the emperor was flabbergasted because in his previous understandings of religions, all of these things were rewards that would reap him some benefit, if not just here, but in the next world. And Bodhidharma is telling him, you're not getting anything. And he was giving him this wonderful, bitter medicine. Rather than giving him candy, he gave him the bitter medicine that this world is an illusion. And so do not expect rewards within this world. We simply follow the function. It is not easy for us to do that because we're constantly reward driven, right? When you go to school, what do you expect? I want to graduate. Why do you want to graduate? So I can get to the next school. Why do you want to get to the next school? So I can go to the next one. And then what do you get? A diploma. And then what do you get? And then I get married, and so you're constantly looking for something in this world, and you're working. Why are you working? So I can go on vacation. No, so I can get away from work. Well, isn't that what you wanted to do in the first place? Yeah, but work's work. And so we look at this world in such a weird way. Shifu used to always say to us that you rest in the present moment. Whatever you're doing, you're resting. Now I'm resting from working all day as an attorney. I shouldn't say all day. I goofed around a little bit today, I have to say. But in any case, if this is called goofing around preparing for this lecture, but in any case, it's something that we have to see things as they are, and what is our purpose here? Okay. So he says, how do we access this great compassion? So first we foster at first the meta loving kindness, which we talked about, which generates the karuna. So I kind of put that out of order, but that's okay. We begin to become more mindful of our environment and our own discrimination of the environment. Staying in the present moment, we are aware that in each moment there are causes and conditions for all conditions that are arising. As we understand how mind works, we begin to formulate in the present moment via body, speech, and mind actions that will harmonize with the environment of sentient beings in the world itself. So we begin to listen to what is happening around us and then choose the Buddha for our next thought, our next action, our next speech. We begin to see the ways in which we can improve this environment and lessen the suffering of others. Sometimes listening to the suffering of others is simply the practice. Making slight changes in the environment to harmonize with others, and this comes with improved listening. So as we begin to listen more and more, we're not talking. We're not allowing the self to say, you know what, if you do this, you'll look like really sharp, or you'll do this, or if you give this beggar $5 in front of all these people, the people are going to be very impressed with that, or whatever it is. We don't listen to that garbage that's going on in mind. All of that is unwholesome, sticky thoughts. If we give money, we give money. If we don't give money, we don't give money. But it's processing through the mind in a way of what is the most wholesome action to do in that moment. So it's not just simply the wholesome thoughts that we do, but as we, from these wholesome thoughts, generate wholesome action. And the mind then begins to become on this autopilot for the benefit of others, for the harmony of others. And it changes the way that the world is seen. It's no longer seen through the viewpoint of Gilbert looking at the world. Gilbert is coursing through the world, just like in some kind of a video game. What one master said, it appears that everything begins to split in two, that which is being happening and that which is observing it. But it is this perception of the mind that rightfully puts the ego over onto the side of consciousness and appearances within consciousness. And it gives for a moment the appearance that there's two, this observer and what is being observed, but in fact, it is it is the non-duality of the mind that enables us to see things in this way. We'll bring that up in a later time. So we listen with our heart. We are aware of what is arising and perhaps begin to have some realizations as to why certain conditions are arising. More importantly, we begin to see the possibility of changes in the environment by what we say, think, and do. We allow wisdom to manifest with this present moment. This wisdom is perfected wisdom, which does not rely upon a rational samsaric mind, which is oriented towards some reward system for us. If I smile at this person, they will smile at me. And I might be able to obtain something from them from this friendship. It's not like that. We are not listening to discriminating thoughts of the illusory ego, so the ego takes a back seat to whatever we do. On the contrary, if we listen to the ego, we process things with samsaric reasoning and goals and are unable to access this unbridled compassion. The ancients, okay, I already talked about that. When we talk about power, it's a little bit different concept than what you think about. One should not think that if someone has some kind of special powers, that they are enlightened or close to enlightenment. These powers may arise from different reasons. The true Buddha mind power has nothing to do with samsaric powers. Please remember this. Whatever, if someone has a skill set, it's samsaric. And we should not be bedazzled by that or follow a person simply because they have that. You follow the person for what are they saying? Is it the medicine that is necessary to be heard, or is it just something that will titillate your senses and allure you to following them blindly? Buddha mind powers may manifest in this world, but they are not utilized from the ego, but from the heart. This is the distinction of these powers. If they need to be used, they can be used, but they're not something that are there as a display or some kind of a parlor trick that somebody uses to allure people to follow them. When we access true compassion, we will utilize the Buddha heart or bodhicitta. This always, we have always had and will simply have to listen to have faith and practice properly. Again, I'm telling you that you have this, but you have to have the faith to be able to practice that in the right way. So whatever you do, we can utilize wisdom and compassion in those circumstances. The practice in this way increases our ability to utilize it in the future. It increases the awareness of the mind in different ways. Later, the mind may be more what is arising in the present moment. Even others' thoughts or conduct, which may come to pass, may also be able to be accessed by the awareness of sentient beings and their plight in the Buddha cosmos initially. It may be just classes of people or even animals, later worlds. And what I'm trying to say here is just kind of a free flow of information of how the mind begins to start with something and then expands until it just gets to this infinite. But when we allow the mind this freedom, what Master Suzuki said, a big pasture to roam in, this will happen, is that the mind will continually expand without borders. It's not really expanding, it's already at the infinite. We just don't realize that. But our realization is beginning to see how vast mind is, not the samsaric world. The samsaric world is here, maybe as far as the the telescopes of the astronomers can reach. But that's the most tiniest of pebbles of in the Ganges River of a sand pebble. Not even that for the whole entire universe. So you could imagine how vast infinite is. Is this real or is this imaginings? We have to have faith to be able to overcome what appears to be imaginations as is dictated by the natural rules of nature from the samsara world. Years ago, thought of man's flight was simply a fantasy. The story of Icarus was a cautionary tale of flying too close to the sun. That was somebody that used wax and attached feathers onto him and flew, and his father told him, don't fly too close to the sun, which he did, and then everything melted. So we've always had fear of things that we don't understand, including flying, as far back as who knows how many years, 2,000 or more years ago, when that tale was told. Now there exist so many different forms of flight, and even space travel. Such things were inconceivable 150 years ago. Maybe perhaps those foreseen, such as people, Jules Verne, could embrace, but the general public, it was seen as impossible. In the fields of science, there is a class of scientists, which are quantum physicists. They have the ability to think outside the box. They are limited by ultimately trying to prove their theories following the rules of samsara. But their strength is not to hold on to established rules, but to push the envelope of possibilities. The Buddha doctrine actually talked about atoms 2,500 years ago, and even particles even smaller than that. The point here is not to say, oh, it's true science, but to allow your mind, your true mind, this unrestricted pasture to see there. And if you have faith, you will find that that it will work. One of the people on the Mindwork forum was talking about faith, and quite so. That was important. That one has to have faith, and that faith then will lead to realizations if one truly has a faith in what they're doing. It's not a blind faith, but it's a faith that leads you towards realizations that where before you thought were just imaginings actually are real. It takes time, and we shouldn't practice for the sake of trying to obtain these realizations, but they naturally occur when we do this. And compassion is one of those. This true, powerful compassion is one that if we have faith, that it will come to us. It will be demonstrated moment to moment to moment. This all takes time to practice, but I feel I would be remiss if I did not present this to you and let you see it for yourself, or rather, I should rightly say, put aside the self and the mind will naturally see it. So thank you for listening. There was a bit more, but I think this is a good place to stop and take questions if you have questions. This faith in mind is very, very powerful. And compassion is the ultimate product of all of this. It is what we should devote ourselves towards. Thank you. Let me talk. I'll take questions. Oh, Angela's there. Did you see my shirt? That's for you.
Okay, I can unmute now. Yes, we saw the shirt, and Hugo
That's
wants
for
to
you,
say hi.
Hugo.
you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much, little Bodhisattva. I'm so happy to see the two of you.
I'm really grateful for the talk and then for everything. And then I'm also very grateful, for Hugo because he's like my bodhisattva too. Sort of brings me back to reality, the true reality, and the really, I think I was sort of, it kind of brings me back to really deepens my faith and everything. So, although as horrible as everything is, but I am grateful for whatever is happening and whatever has happened. And then I want to thank everyone and all the bodhisattvas. And what Gilbert said is absolutely true. We should transfer merits from our heart and then to all sentient beings. So this is what I'm trying to do every day as well. So I just want to say thank you, Gilbert, and thank you everyone from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
We can continue to express this compassion towards Hugo and all of those in his plight, and keep that you're actually the benefits you receive will be immeasurable, and the compassion that you provide will be immeasurable when we do this in the right way. This is why I spent the time on this lecture, to show you how it works and why it's so powerful in samsara. I didn't think of that analogy of a hose, garden hose, but it's in that way that it can be directed. This power of compassion can be directed so incredibly powerful as a stream. So thank you. Yeah, and I'm very happy to see him. Are you back now, or are you still over there in Taiwan? If you can unmute her.
We're still in Taiwan, so but we can go home and take a rest this week.
Oh,
Yeah. So going back to the States will probably happen next year, hopefully in the spring.
okay, good. Well, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people that will come to say hi to you.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I look forward to seeing you, Gilbert.
Yes. Okay. All right. I'm opening it up to questions. Yes, Harry.
Hi, Gilbert. Nice to see you after the retreat and everybody else here. Um, just wanted to comment. I think it's wonderful that when you talk about compassion, because especially for a Westerner working in Chan, it's not always so apparent. And we often enter the practice with a large amount of selfishness. I think it's kind of natural. Also, Norman Fisher said that you could say the Four Noble Truths, the Four Great Vows for decades and have no idea that it has anything to do with compassion, right? So just wanted to make that comment, and thank you once again for your talk.
Yeah, I think it is in the heart when we recite the four great vows that we have to recite it sincerely, and that's a big key. That really helped me a lot. Where instead of just saying something or reading the Heart Sutra or whatever, you sincerely recite it, and it makes a big difference. There's a conversion in mind that subjugates the ego to mind itself, and so it enables the mind to express the true compassion. I think you're right in terms of how sometimes we recklessly or unsincerely do recitation. So yeah, thank you. Okay, Sam.
Hey, Gilbert, and hey, everyone. It's good to see everyone's faces after the retreat. First, I actually wanted to just say thank you so much to Angela. That was an incredible thing to get to meet see Hugo even for a moment. So thank you for that. And I actually just wanted to share off of what Gilbert's taught us since the retreat, and how this teaching today, I feel like, has really integrated the most important part of that retreat. I know that myself and a few others realized that this true compassion, not the samsaric compassion, was the missing component in our practice. Like going off of what Harry said, with reciting Guan Yin's name and, paying homage to this bodhisattva, I've realized that this bodhisattva is kind of everywhere. I had a boss who's really funny enough. Gilbert, you're talking about having compassion for our bosses earlier. He kept asking me for my first refuge necklace. And before the retreat, my selfishness has arisen quite a bit. And then coming back from the retreat, he asked me again, and I felt completely different about it. And I gave it to him. And he told me he really wanted it because he had a Buddha card, like some kind of gold card that he had given to his son, and told his son to carry it with him everywhere. And I asked him to send me a picture of it. And it turns out that it wasn't the Buddha, it was a card of Guan Yin. So it's funny just how after reciting Guan Yin's name and the teachings of compassion Gilbert was able to privilege us with, it seems now everywhere we look as practitioners, you can find Guan Yin. So thank you for this lecture, Gilbert. Thank you.
You're welcome. You'd be surprised how many bracelets and necklaces I've given away over the time. If people, they need it, they need it more than I do. So poof, there it goes. And I give it to them freely. I don't think about how long I've had it, what the cost was, whatever. I just give it to them. And this is our practice. So that's good. Good for you. David, you coming up with something? There you go.
Well, thank you. I wanted to thank you for everything that you shared and what's happened and everything. I had an incident this morning, and you gave me some answers. It was like the whole practice just went right out the window, and the samsaric side of me took over. But you supplied some things I like to look at. But basically, and I don't know if you can even answer this. I tend to ask these questions anyway, but can you talk or mention or direct me a little bit into the whole idea of wisdom and compassion together? Or prajna?
Wisdom and compassion. If one has wisdom, and before I had a more imbalanced wisdom and less compassion. I had to actually cultivate compassion. Wisdom came a little easier for me as to see how things are and how they work and everything. But it was, you could say, the level of someone that practices, in analogy, I'm not saying I'm a Buddha or anything, but a Pratika Buddha coming in and having wisdom of causes and conditions and seeing the world from that viewpoint, but not seeing the compassion. And the compassion has to be there, this great compassion that isn't conditional, that's there. So when we have that compassion there, and then we realize, that when incidences happen, when people get under our skin, that's where our practice begins. That's where we Nam Amitofu, Nam Amitofu, Nam Amitofu. Then we don't see the people as our enemy or antagonist, but we see them as a Buddha. And maybe because of their ignorance, they cannot do anything, but we don't make the situation worse. So it is that wisdom that works, but it's that compassion that puts us over the top to be able to control it. So that there has to be that balance there. If we have compassion without wisdom, then people can take away, a lot from you and use you, but you don't realize that they're using you, and you're not really helping them sometimes. For instance, a mother, I see this very often, mostly mothers that are enablers of people that are on drugs. And they foster an environment that to sustain them, but they don't have the wisdom to tell them, hey, you need to go into a drug program. I'm going to cut you off of assistance. And so they have compassion, but they don't have the wisdom. On the other hand, if one has wisdom and says that person's a drug person, then you still have to reach out to them and try to help them. That's where the compassion comes, because you know that they've lost their ability or their willpower to do things, and so they're no longer able to utilize their own wisdom. So you try. So there has to be a balance there in wisdom and compassion. Okay. But again, through via body, speech, and mind, in the Mind Work Forum, read what Eon set out. I was kind of like tickling him to bring out the four proper exertions, and I think that will help you a lot. Okay.
Oh,
So
yes.
please read that, and if you've read it again, because that's very, very powerful. And I think that's kind of something that Eon picked up at the last retreat. That kind of the light turned on for him with that one. So it's how we practice. So
I'll do that. Thank you very much.
You got it. Okay, Ron Chen, there you are. Amitofo.
I want to get guidance from you about the way to return marriage. My way to do it is to actually first return marriage to all sentient beings, and I mostly return the marriage to the karmic hindrance, to the creditor, to the enemies of the people who I pray for, and then only for exceptional few people who are really in true need, I return the marriage also to those people in need. For most people, I just return the marriage to the karmic hindrance and the creditors' enemies. I don't know whether this is the way, but that's the way that I have been doing.
It's okay. Your question is a very, very good question, because there is let's say, a progression with all of this. I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way to do it. Oftentimes, the way I do it is that, like, if I'm going to do something, let's say for Hugo, I set aside a specific effort to him, but he's in the forefront. Behind him is his mother. Behind them is everyone in the hospital, the children that are there that are suffering. Behind that is another group. So it's multi-layered back. And so, but I'm presenting this to them and emphasizing him, like directing the stream, but I also have a spray of everyone else. Then when I'm completed with that, then I transfer merit to all sentient beings in all categories and all directions. And we think, is this going to work? Is this something? Is this just me making this up or make believe or whatever? It works. It works. The more that we do that, the more effective this becomes, not the more powerful Gilbert becomes in doing that. Gilbert doesn't have anything to do with it. It is the bodhicitta that does that. What we learn, Rongchen, is that this bodhicitta from the Heart Sutra, from the Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, this compassion is there. So the way you're doing it is fine. Just I do it in my way in terms of that, and realizing how I spray the compassion, but I can direct it as well. So if somebody needs something, if they need particular protection, let's say they're going through something, I will direct a stream of protection towards them, okay, and to help them. Or if they have, let's say, a problem with their body, sometimes I can give them some kind of some healing there, I'm not going to say it works 100% of the time, but it can't hurt. And that's again a directed stream of well-wishing and blessings. So when we transfer merit, I use this idea of blessings, to send blessings is like a protection, but also something that enables the environment around those sentient beings to be more wholesome. And so you try to do that, but it has to be a reflection of bodhicitta, okay, to be able to transcend the idea of a samsaric blessing. We can give a samsaric blessing, I bless you, whatever, okay. But when we give a blessing from bodhicitta, it's infinitely more powerful. But it just comes with practice. The more that you practice, which you're doing, which is good, the stronger it will get for you. Okay. Hopefully that will help you.
Yes.
It's a very, very good question. Thank you. Okay, Wendy.
Was it me? Wendy, me?
You.
I wanted Gilbert. When you said you were the wisdom above or in front of the compassion, I was always compassion in front of the wisdom, and I didn't understand the wisdom. I just thought, no, because I'm not intelligent, I thought, well, then can't be wise. But looking into it, I had to go look into that, and I realized that the wisdom, the compassion, was the wisdom using compassion with the wisdom. No, I don't know if I said that right. Yeah, that when if you're using compassion, you're using wisdom.
Yeah.
And so, and that took me like years, like last 3 years I've been working on this, and it's been really enlightening to realize that wisdom is not intelligence. Wisdom is wisdom. And so I wanted to thank you, because when you said that, the wisdom was, if you had practiced compassion, I've been having to practice understanding what wisdom was, and realizing that the compassion, the wisdom is in compassion. So I wanted to thank you for that so much, and the understanding is getting deeper and deeper. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not even going to say anything to you in any way, because just stay with what you're doing right now. Okay. I think that's quite beneficial to you. And as you're working through this, it'll work out fine, because there's all of these coming in and coming together, and I want you to gel that, which is good. And that's kind of where you're at. So you're in a we say that the mountain pass ahead, the snow is melted.
It has, yes.
Okay.
And now I need to step on it. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Anyone else? Shloka.
Hi, Gilbert and everyone. Thank you so much for this special lecture. I think I'm going to go back to it many times, but I have 2 questions, if that's okay. The first is, does sentimental compassion go away completely in favor of the unconditional? And is there then less embodied emotions, like crying?
All right. What's your next question?
The next question was on transfer of merit, and I'm glad for the previous one, because I've been thinking about it since the retreat, and I just wonder, how do we build merit, and then how do we know when we're ready to transfer it?
Yeah. Let's say to our parents, we remain filial, like Shenhua Master remained filial to his parents, and after they died, he was in a period of mourning and things. It's okay, to understand those things. It's okay to have this kind of a compassion, but in the middle way, where we do that because these people brought us into the world, then we know that this is something that's important. But we have to divest ourselves from too much sentimental compassion, because it's a trick, and it can affect us and harm us in our practice, in that when things don't go the right way, and then we kind of tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and we kind of lose our practice, because we're stuck with this sentimental compassion, this worldly compassion, and it affects us too much. So you have to be careful with that. Doesn't mean that you can't be nice to a significant other. You can't be nice to your dog. You can't be whatever, but you just tend to have a bigger family. Okay. So I have my family at work. I have my family, my regular family. And then everybody is like Ratnagotra, that you're all the Buddha family. And I have this metta for all of you. And it is in this way that one expresses it. And the more we can divest ourselves of sentimental compassion, the more we can experience this kind of a metta towards all sentient beings. It is truly something. Again, you don't have to give it all up, but you have to put it in perspective. The more that you hold, for compassion, let's say specialized compassion or conditional compassion, then it will slow your practice down. And it's not something that I say, okay, give up everything. There's two stories I give you. One of them was this one master that went and decided to leave his family. Very difficult thing, right? He had a family, and his after several years, his son grew up and went looking for him. And when he went to see him, he knew roughly where he was living at a temple, and he stopped this one monk to ask him, "I'm looking for this person, and the monk just said to him, "I don't know him," and then walked away. And he was the father. It's difficult to understand that kind of a connection or a compassion in terms of that. Not an easy one. And I throw that one out to you because that's one that you have to kind of ruminate in your mind to try to see that. And, I look at it, and when the first time I heard it, I went, wow, how could he do that? I couldn't do that. But it is something to consider. The other one was one that I said at the retreat, which is where an elderly student of Shifu had said that he wished he died before Shifu died. Remember that story? And so then, and when he asked him why so, and he said, because if I die before you, Shifu, I will miss. If you die before me, I will miss you greatly. And Shifu just paused for a moment, put his head down, then looked up and said, if you die before me, I shall not miss you. And so this is a very powerful statement. It doesn't mean that he doesn't care about him. He has metta for all of them. Otherwise, he wouldn't spend a whole 7 days trying to present the Dharma to them. But he was consistent with what he was doing. In this way, this is how we practice to get rid of the idea of the self. Again, it's not easy for us, and in samsara we look at it and go, how can he do that? How can he say that? When he said that, I was like in awe in terms of what he said, because I understood then. The first story was one that was early on, and it really gave me quite a bit of cause for thought about the right and wrong of that action. And so, but it is in this way sometimes. So in any case, hopefully that will help you. Did you have a second question?
The second was on transfer of merit and how we build merit, and when do we know that we're ready to transfer it?
When do we what?
When do we know that we're ready to transfer merit, and how we build it?
You just follow your heart. In everything that you do, you just follow your heart. There's no like guideline that says step 1 you do this, step 2 you do that. You have to find that in mind, and you have to find a way to express it. Sometimes it's expressed by an emanation from you out. Other times it's just expressed in your actions. I see, for instance, Sue here, and she's a perfect example. She's Samantha Bhadra. Okay. She expresses it in her actions. And so that's her compassion, great compassion expressed in her actions. And when we see things like this, we rejoice in that. That's the mudita I was talking about, this appreciative joy when we see people that way. That's like, why did the Buddha smile? And so there's different ways to do it. You just have to keep playing with it. Just like Rong Chen is sorting through this in terms of how he's going to do it. You just keep trying, and sending it out. That's why I always talk to people that are doing Nyenpo, the recitation of the Buddha name. Do not just say the Buddha name. You have to express it from the heart every time you say it, even if you're saying it quickly. Nam Amitopo, Nam Amitopo, Nam Amitopo, but you're expressing it from the heart and sending it out. And there is a power and a joy there, and a concern, all of these things all coming together to express it. This is how you transfer merit. You little by little, it will come to you. You'll find a way to do it. Okay. The way that you do it is you keep practicing. That's what I did. I just been practicing and going, wow, this seems like it's working, and it's getting to be a little bit more effective. And so I just keep following that, and I'm following the heart in that way. Okay. These are good questions. Good questions for the whole evening. Anybody have one last question? All right, Jake.
Cool. Okay. I just said thank you for the lecture. I have one question about when you said that true Buddha power is not samsaric. And I feel like at the same time, this sort of infinite compassion that you're able to access and share has an effect on people. And I feel like that effect can like manifest as something that is samsaric. And I'm wondering how that, like, can you understand this sort of infinite compassion through its effects? Or is that like, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I'm struggling to understand, the distinction between what's samsaric and what's not samsaric, if the infinite compassion can manifest in samsara in some way.
Yeah, if you look at things kind of like the Venn diagrams, you know what a Venn diagram is, right? So you have a Venn diagram like this, and this is a samsaric world, and then around it is mind, and then with mind, you just have little arrows going out showing the infinite of it. That samsaric world, then it can generate some power, but it cannot generate the power of mind itself. And that power of mind itself is like the difference between using an amplifier that has, 1 watt versus 100 watts or 750 watts. It's very strong, and then you just add a few zeros to that, and then you have the mind power. And so, but the mind power is not for the sake of deriving power in that way. It's the sake of wherever there's a samsaric world, not just this samsaric world, but wherever there's a samsaric world, it can reach those because it can spray or it can be directed. So when it's directed and it's directed towards the samsaric world, targeted towards an individual in the samsaric world, it can become very powerful. The samsaric power has less power because it only can derive power from the imaginings. It's not real. But when it derives power from what is the absolute, then it's incredibly powerful. I know it's difficult to explain these and for people to kind of try to because you can't grasp it. You got to feel it. But if you feel it, it will be in this way. But it still functions within the samsara, but it goes into the samsaric world, and it's targeted from the mind itself, not from within the samsara. Okay, that's kind of what I was trying to express.
Thank you.
It's a good question. Okay, I really wanted to get this out. Been kind of working on this for a while, and wanted to give you the benefit of what I've experienced with all of this. I really thank you. I think that it's these kinds of lectures that are ones that are truly the treasure for us to see what mind work is all about, that it brings all these things together. It's not trying to say, oh, there's a first level and second level in terms of that, and trying to distinguish. It's trying to use those and understanding how these work and why they work. And that's what the sutras are all about, is they're trying to explain to you why Buddha Dharma works the way it works. No, because it extends beyond samsara, beyond imaginings. And as we begin to see things in this way, if we practice in imaginings, we practice. But when we practice this compassion, what we may think, oh, Gilbert, you're just imagining this stuff. Am I really? No. You see for yourself and practice, okay? And if you have faith, you will progress with this. So thank you very much for listening today. Oh, Penny, you have one question. Got it. Go ahead.
Oh, hi, Gilbert. Thank you. This is a very precious topic to share. I heard you said that are you imagining it or not? This is not imagination. I just wanted to say that when you practice compassion, you can actually observe it in your daily life. It happens all the times that you can see it very clearly, and it really affects the sitting as well on the cushion. And I think that one of the things resonate to me a lot for a very long time, since the first time I heard from your face, is choose the Buddha moment to moment. I think that really is a very strong, it just struck my heart. And when it came to occasions that, difficult time or challenging topics in my life, difficult situations, I always resonate with that phase, that's choosing the Buddha, and that always saved me. And to me, that is also a compassion by choosing the Buddha from moment to moment.
Oh, absolutely. It's all connected. And thank you for explaining that. No, Penny at the last retreat had some very great insights and progress in her practice. And her words today reflect that sincerity in the practice. So, again, this is mudita, appreciative joy to her for what she did, because she sat with faith, and it causing conditions never fail. So, okay, I guess that's about it for today. Thank you all for attending. I'll come up with something next week to be something of value to you. I always try to do that, is not waste your time. So thank you again for attending. Amitabha.
Me too.